Hey, what's going on, guys? My name's Ethan K. Welcome to the channel today. I want to talk about why the Steam Deck has made my Nintendo Switch irrelevant. Now, obviously, as you can see here, I've got Emu Station, Yuzu, Dolphin, PSP, PPSSPP all installed on my Steam Deck. For those who don't know, I use Emu Deck on my Steam Deck, which means I can emulate basically any retro game system, even modern game systems. Plus, obviously, you got the functionality of actually downloading your Steam library, uh, despite having these. So if I go to Emulation Station, I've only got a few systems on there currently. Nothing major, but obviously I've got PC Engine games, Game Boy Advance and Game Gear, which obviously we haven't got Game Boy Advance games on Nintendo Switch like that subscription service they offer. They don't have anything past N64. Uh, they have obviously Game Gear are games we never really see re-released. We don't really see Sega come out with, oh, here's a Game Gear collection. It's literally like Mega Drive, Mega Drive, Mega Drive for them. Obviously PC Engine, I've got PC Engine games mostly because I wanted to play some of these games. I wanted to experience some of these games like Bonk and that, and I didn't want to wait till Konami re-released them because I don't think they've re-released them yet. And I wasn't going to wait for the Evercade to maybe get them in a few years. So I thought, I'd use EmuDeck. Now, for me, setting this up was quite hard because I've never really used a system for emulation before, at least one that didn't have the games built in, or what that weren't already on like a cartridge like the Evercade does. So when I got this, obviously I wanted to use a Steam Deck as like as my handheld, like a handheld from my Steam library, and then I kind of started talking to a colleague of mine. He was telling me, oh, do this, this, and this, and you can get RetroArch on it, you can get all these old games on it, you can get all these great games on there. So I did what he told me to. Didn't really work. So what I did was I looked for a tutorial online and found a tutorial on EmuDeck and how to install EmuDeck on your or Steam Deck, which to me is actually a really great thing because obviously, if you go to the right ROM site and you can get the right ROMs, you can basically have an unlimited library of games depending on what system you want to emulate for. Because I do know that my colleague has the whole Mega Drive, Game Boy Advance, SG-1000, a bunch of other systems, entire libraries on his Steam Deck because obviously he's got obviously the most premium model. He's got obviously the 500 I think it's 512 gigabyte model. This is the model I've got is a 256 gigabyte model because obviously it's still a Steam Deck. It's just I want some decent storage. I didn't want to pay for the most premium model, but I obviously didn't want to get the cheapest model, so I got this model. Now I will say the price of the system is quite pricey, but obviously it's a micro PC, so that's to be expected. So it's more powerful than any Nintendo Switch that's currently on the market. It's also got, in my opinion, it's got a better library. It's got the entire Steam library, plus you can do stuff like obviously EmuDeck and RetroArch and whatnot, and get loads more games on your system for nothing. Now, me personally, I use this as an emulation machine, obviously, but obviously compare this to what the Nintendo Switch offers when it comes to retro games. The Nintendo Switch doesn't really offer much. It's a £35 a year subscription. There's about 200 games on it, and the games they offer, just to me, it's kind of dead to put it lightly because the Switch service just doesn't really have many games that really appeal to me. I want to see Game Boy Advance, Game Boy games on Switch Online, but they don't offer them. So I thought, okay, I'll just get a Steam Deck and just emulate them because obviously why bother waiting? Nintendo took a year to add Super Nintendo games to Switch Online. They took I think it was like 2 years to add the N64 games to Switch Online. They're going to take long to add any other system to Switch Online now, if they even add another system. And to me, obviously, if I can just emulate the games on Steam Deck, obviously, a lot of the companies that obviously own those ROMs don't exist anymore, or the developers behind them will close. So to me, I feel it kind of feels like because I've got like Bonk and that on this PC Engine list, but to me I'm fine with emulating that because the actual developers behind that, like Hudson Soft were folded into Konami into 2015, so Hudson Soft doesn't exist anymore. So I thought, okay, I'm fine with emulating those games. You know, Obviously I used to have a whole mentality that obviously emulation was bad, but when you look at emulation is also preservation because a lot of companies do go out of business. A lot of companies do just go bankrupt someday, and if they do, their assets are obviously sold. But then companies will resell them And obviously, to me, a lot of companies reselling the old IPs of companies that don't even exist anymore does feel kind of awkward to me because obviously people will talk about the original developer, while the original developer doesn't actually work there anymore, and the actual company doesn't even exist anymore. But I know I've made arguments in the past that obviously, well, I was fine with it because obviously, if basically the developers doesn't work there anymore, and the publisher still makes the money off the game, it's not the same developer, and that's true. But yeah, to me, as well, the system's more powerful than the Switch. It's got a better library than the Switch. It's digital only handheld, which is great because obviously you haven't got to worry about carrying all these cartridges with you because Switch cartridges are really small and you can lose them very easily. And obviously, it's just a better emulation machine. You can't. If you want to crack a Switch, you've got to basically You've got to basically solder it. You've got to basically go into the back and do it that way, and then just get the original model. I own two Switch Lites, and I'm not brave enough to try and risk breaking either of them to obviously, mod it. So I thought, I'll just get a Steam Deck. Anyway, guys, let me know your thoughts about this in the comments down below. Does the Steam Deck make your Switch irrelevant? Is there any system you stop playing because of the Steam Deck? Let me know your let me know your comments down below, and I'll see you in the next episode. Peace.